Hello, everyone, and welcome to the future of work. Today, my name is Tommie Edwards, and I will be your host today. What we'll be discussing, we will be discussing about the work placement of the future, and we have an amazing guest with us today. If this is the first time you are stopping and hearing about what we're doing at Tech1M, Tech1M is a talent acquisition platform for finding and for hiring and for paying global talent. We are deliberate about changing the future of work. And you would agree with me that the future of work, especially since the pandemic, is changed drastically. And it's about time we start to have important conversations about what is happening, what exactly do talents want, what do businesses need to do to be able to adapt to this change, and what exactly do we need to do to make sure that we could secure not only this future, but the future of the younger generation that is coming today. So with me is an amazing guest, and she'll be able to describe and introduce herself, but I'll give you a little bio details of this remarkable woman who has decided to join us today. So we have Jill. Jill is a recruitment consultant and the founder at the Tech Career Club. She's into streamlining the hiring and training processes for B2B, data, and SaaS sales companies. In addition, she's a recruiter and sales talent developer. So welcome to Tech 1M, Jill, and welcome to Shaping the Future of Work.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk about how work has changed since the pandemic for sure.
Absolutely. It's definitely really, really changed based on the things that we have been saying. And I don't know if it's the same with you guys. You're in the US. Is it the same with you in the US? Are you finding the same sort of problems?
When you say problems, what do you mean as far as like talent shortage or like people just getting acclimated to the tech industry?
So when I say problems, I mean that prior to the pandemic, the sort of job, the sort of, the work placement, the way in which we adapt to the work placement was completely different. And coming out of the pandemic, it seems to be like there is a shift. So for us in the UK, and I could also speak for a large part of the EMEA, this is something that is major. We're beginning to see many people leave employers, employers struggling to find the right talent. There's tedious hiring process. All of a sudden, what talent really wants has completely changed. I remember, I would say that our fathers, they want to be able to have job stability and they want to be able to provide for their family. And so you see them staying in one workplace for so long, 20, 30, 40 years. And then we come into my sort of generation, we want to, okay, we still want to have flexibility, but we want to be able to have a way in which we could say, oh, I'm working for this particular company and we're building something amazing. I want to be part of this project. I want to be seen attached to a company that is doing something amazing. But, and it doesn't really matter. I'm already used to I have to go into the office. I'm already used to collaborating with people all around me. But I think there's a shift. So I think that is the shift I'm trying to describe. Talk us about to us about how you've been seeing this shift and what is happening within the shift based on where you are right now.
Yeah, that is a really great question. So, what I'm finding now is that employers have to pay more attention to what job seekers are looking for. So, it used to be when we applied for a role that employers had discernment whether they could hire us for a specific salary, and that's a whole nother conversation that I definitely want to dive into where we've changed as far as salary is concerned. But employers now have to really listen to what employees want. So employee satisfaction is at the top of the list. There was a recent lawsuit that came out from a employer that wanted to sue Glassdoor. Glassdoor allows for employees to put anonymous reviews, and an employer had said that they are having in Australia, they're having issues with attracting additional talent because of the commentary that was left. And so I say that to say that now job seekers have an opportunity to say, what type of environment do I want to work in? And it's no longer that companies are setting the pace for what that looks like for us. So you're seeing that, right? You're also seeing the fact that employees care more about their well-being, their mental health, right? So working 70, 80-hour weeks, not seeing our family, not having time to exercise, not having time to self-care is no longer, like, millennials are like, I'm good on that. If that's the type of environment that you want to foster, then I'm not going to be a party to that. So that's another trend that we're seeing. So I'll say employee satisfaction, employee wellness, and then we'll also see that technology is changing. So now employees can really work from anywhere in the world. So is there really a reason for us to have to go back into the office, especially in the tech world?
Absolutely. I see what you're saying. And this is something that we are saying as well, all over. And I think that there's an opportunity here. And based on what you're saying, employees now begin to see that, okay, do you know what? I want to value my well-being. I want to be able to dictate how I work. I want to be able to, not just go to work to earn money, but to build it around my sort of lifestyle. But you can only do that if you're talented. So how does this balance work? Because if you're still trying to chase, you're not a quality talent, you don't have these choices. And if you are a quality talent that is sought after, and I think that is where the tech world, there is a whole lot of shortage within the tech world, and that's why we're seeing this major shift because there are tons of them that are everyone wants to build the next best thing. They're looking for the best developer to do it, the best designer, the best analyst to be able to work on that. And so when they find them, and you have five different offers, all of a sudden we have the talents dictating what they want. And I think this is a shift that's a shock to a lot of companies. So how do you see companies adapting to this new change? Because I believe this has come to stay, wouldn't you?
I would absolutely agree. And I think that a lot of times when we think tech, we do think about the developers, we do think about the business analysts, we do think about those coders. So the first thing I'll say is that it's important that companies are putting training processes in place. We have to get back to training and developing our talent because no one else is going to do it for us. If you take a look, I want to say probably about the mid 2000s, way before the pandemic, I'll say maybe about 2015 to 2010, 2010 and 2015, you saw companies kind of take a step back from focusing on training their employees, right? And they were like, okay, no, we want you to invest in yourself. We want you to go to a boot camp, right, and get the certification. We want you to go back and get your education. And now you see a shift where they're like, okay, maybe everyone can't afford to do that. So we're going to train the talent. We should, number one, be training the talent. And then number two, I think that we should also be taking a look at some of those non-traditional talent, right, or candidates that are not in tech originally, that are not native to tech, but has some of those transferable skills that will then build, into whatever career or whatever role or function that company may need.
I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. I believe that organizations, based on what you're saying, should not only be able to attract candidates to them, attract new employees to them, but they need to train and retrain the existing talents that they have so that they could fit into the talent of the future. There's so many transferable skills, like you mentioned, that could go into the things that are very, very significant and important right now. So every organization needs to, for them to be able to adapt to this sort of change, it has to be a strategy of developing new talent, having a pipeline of talents coming through your doors, having a way in which you are retraining the existing employees you have. And I like the example you made about, oh, you go get your boot camp yourself, go get your degrees yourself. But now there's a shift that's coming that's like, all right, you find the boot camp, we'll pay for it. Or do you know what? We'll create our boot camp and you can join. And that retraining is going to help with the skill shortage gap that we are finding. And also the need to then have a cultural shift in which they could use in retaining the people that are coming through their doors. So if we look through the cultural shift and talk about the retaining people, you mentioned one of few things in the beginning about it's not just about money anymore. Yeah, the money is important. That's one of the factor, and that used to be pretty much money and location were the two biggest factor before. Yeah. So, but what other factors are you beginning to see that money, location, what other things what other trends are people asking for that we might not be seeing at the moment?
So for sure, now you're wanting to see people who want the fully remote opportunity. A lot of people don't want to go back into the office. I saw a recent article from Bloomberg earlier this week that stated that Gen Z wants to go back into the office. And so I polled my audience. I was like, how many of you are really ready to go back into the office? And people were like, no, like, I don't care what that article says. Like, I don't want to go back in. So you're definitely going to see a lot more companies having to adopt some sort of hybrid format or structure. And then secondly, you're going to notice that a lot of companies are going to have more money to hire than they do to promote within. And that's just the fact. I think that's a part that most people don't really talk about, that you're not going to see the long tenure that we once saw, right? So that's another trend that I think that people can be paying attention to. Millennials are not staying in roles for 20 and 30 years. And you can see this through the way that a lot of the Fortune 500 companies are beginning to change their benefits package, right? They used to have the benefits package where you've been there for 20, 25 years. You got, 100 days of vacation. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but still, like you saw the people who were more tenured get the longer vacation times, and you're not seeing that. You're seeing companies restructure how they're going to give their benefits, because millennials are like, I care about my family, I care about being able to work from home, and I care about being able to get my job done in a time limit, in a reasonable time limit. So you're also seeing the fact that people don't want like these insane constraints on them either. um and I'll stop there, yeah, for now.
So what you said, so I like where you stopped. What you said, insane constraints. Let's dive into that. Are we talking micromanaging? What sort of constraints are we talking about?
Absolutely. So you were saying where, people had to have the traditional, you had to be in the office at 9 a.m., you're chained to your desk until 5, right? And then you get to go home and do it all over again. You also dealt with a lot of micromanagement, right? And then when you get to look at a lot of minorities, right? A lot of people of color, they
Mm,
felt biases in the workplace. They felt uncomfortable going into the workplace because a lot of times, especially in the tech world, we're the only, right? You may
okay.
see one or two of us, but there's not a culture that really embraces people of color. And I think a lot of companies are starting to come up with a lot of diversity and inclusion initiatives to make sure that they're targeting those people who are like, I don't want to go back into the office because I don't want to still deal with some of the things that I dealt with before, those microaggressions.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I see the points in there. And I feel like right now employers are beginning to wake up. And like you said, there's a whole lot of this, would I say there cannot be too much of it, but there's a whole lot of diversity and inclusion that is going all around. People are talking about it. Some of them lip service, some of them are actually taking major action into what is going on and trying to find a way to bridge that gap. But it's such a wide gap. And I don't know how long it's going to take for us to start to not feel like minority in a country where we are a lot already. But let's put that to one side because that's a whole That if we go into that, it's a different sort of topic. So sticking to the workplace of the future, we've talked about ways in which companies can adapt, ways in which things that they could do to start to make this sort of change. Let's talk about the talents, the candidates, the employees themselves. So, right now, for you to be many of the things that we've talked about, it doesn't apply to everybody. However, because some would say, "Oh, I'm still looking for a job," but you guys are saying there's so many jobs out there. You guys are saying I can dictate what I want. Why is my employer not making me work from home remotely, completely, at things like that? What do you have to do to be a talent that stands out, that can make the sort of demands?
That's a great question. The first thing I'll say is not every employer is going to create a place for you to work from home. Not every employer wants their talent away from the office. And so I think as a job seeker, you have to evaluate your list of non-negotiables and really decide what is it that you want from a company? What is it that you're looking for? Are you looking for a company that's going to let you work 100% remote? And I think also, in addition to that, you have to be honest with yourself about the skills that you bring to the table. And also take a look to say, okay, does this company need the skills that I have? And if they don't, and you still want to work at that company, it's time that you redo a deep dive into what do you need to do to get there. And so I think that we have I think that we have set this pace, especially in the tech world, where we're making everyone think that you're going to be able to work from home, you're going to have this six-figure salary, and it's going to be cushy. And if I can be honest, I didn't start my tech career working from home on a six-figure salary. And I think that that's a larger conversation that we need to have, that even if you're not where you want to be right now, you have to begin developing that strategy that's going to help you get there. And that strategy begins with what skills do you have now and what skills do you need to get to where you need to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because you have this thing, especially on Twitter, and then you have a lot of people that may, oh, yeah, so I got a six-figure salary. You can do it. You can, yeah, they're motivating you that you can do it. Doesn't mean it's going to happen right now. And as Jill said, it's a matter of you have to build it for it to happen. And for them, it just didn't happen or overnight. And now that being said, there's some few people that maybe luck played a part. But even if you're lucky, I'm a I would typically say that opportunities only come to those that have already prepared for it. So by the time the opportunity is knocking, you already have something to show. So right now, if you want to be that sort of talent of the future, the talents that can dictate, oh, do you know what? Yes, I only want jobs that are remote. That means you have so many offers on the table, and so you're dictating what you want. Then you need to make sure that you are absolutely skilled, as Jill has mentioned. You need to make sure that it's not just skilled in one sort of role. Yeah, you could be skilled in that particular role, but you also want to look up and say, where is the trend going? What does this organization need? What does this industry need? Just have some ideas on what is happening. So you're not just bringing the same thing that a person B is bringing, but you're bringing that same thing with the awareness of what is happening within the industry. That makes you extra. That makes you stand out. That makes the employer a bit more interested in you, that you are not just another Joe from the street. Do you understand? So as a talent, I feel that because I could see someone saying I'm speaking their mind, which is why I'm emphasizing on this point. You need to make sure that you equip yourself to be able to enjoy this workplace of the future. So do you, another question? I think this has been, I'm really enjoying myself. I hope you are as well. um,
Absolutely. I wanted to add one point. I want people to know that there are non-technical positions available in tech just as much as there are the technical positions available. And so if you don't have that tech stack knowledge, know that there are project management positions available, there are technical writer positions available, there are customer success positions available. Like, you can get into tech. It doesn't matter if you have that background now or if you're transitioning your skills from another, background in your prior life to your desired role.
Absolutely, yeah. So tech sales is another amazing one. You're already selling. How can you start selling technology products and understand what the terminology is to use? And there's so many. The list is endless. And like you said, you don't have to be a coder. You don't even need to write a line of code. And we preach that as well in Tech 1M. For the talents that we brought in, we made it a bit mixed. So we have the core coding, and then we have things like digital marketing that you don't have to code, but then you understand that, okay, this is what an IP address looks like, and this is what a pixel feels like, and those sort of things. So you still need to have an awareness of what the industry is, and then find your place. Every single person is different. Your strengths and my strengths are going to be different, and your strength might be my weakness, and you just need to find where your strength is so that you could excel. All right, brilliant. So based on, now that we've spoken about this, before I'll ask one more question before we start going into um, some any questions that the audience have.
So, one thing that I'll also include when it comes to finding some of those non-technical roles is, number one, when I talk to a lot of talent, I always tell them to be sure that they are diving into where their original expertise lies. And so, if you are someone that has a customer success background and you've really been utilizing those customer success skills, I encourage you to say, okay, I have my skills in customer success. Another transferable skill that you want to look at is, have you ever had to sell, right? Have you ever had to position a company product? Have you ever had to position something for the company to upsell? Have you ever had to onboard a client? You really want to dig into what are some of the tasks that you've done in a day-to-day or in your day-to-day role, and is that something that you want to continue doing in your future role? Because I think that sometimes we evaluate what we're doing now, and we don't take a deep dive into what some of our future roles would be, or if we want to continue doing certain things in our future roles. And so that's something that I definitely encourage professionals to look at. And so, yeah, be sure to drop your questions if you have any. I'm happy to answer. Hey, Tommy.
Fantastic. Hi, Jill. Yeah, sorry about that technology. Okay, so please drop your questions, and as you said, she'll be able to answer them. But my last question, just before we start to take those questions, so what exactly do we then see based on everything that we've discussed? So let's say in the next 5 years, based on all the things that are happening and the demands that talents are making, the provisions that companies are beginning to make. So if we're to go into the future and say we are now in 2027, what can we see happening? What do we think this future workplace looks like?
Yeah, so now I think that there are several employees that are hesitant to really adopt the fully remote model because they worry about productivity. But we're seeing in recent studies that employees actually have higher productivity when they are able to work remote, and they're actually getting more work done because, I mean, essentially, I don't want to say we're overworking ourselves, but we're able to manage our desk better. So instead of, we're not, having to travel an hour to get into the office. So we're already at home. We can log in directly, 15 minutes early, and get prepared for the day ahead. And then not only that, but we're not having to fight traffic. So a lot of us aren't scurried out to get home because, maybe our kids are already at home, or, we already have that coordination to go pick up our kids from the daycare. And then some of us who don't even have kids right? Or have a family. Some of us are like, okay, I can afford to work these extra 2 to 3 hours because I'm already at home. So higher productivity for sure. I also see employees offering more training. So I encourage employees to take a look at rotational programs, right? A lot of organizations are going to have rotational programs which will train you on certain skills that you need, or that inform you of skills that you need to develop. So you're going to see higher productivity training. You're going to see a lot more remote work options, just because companies have to give it. Employees aren't going back into the office. They're just not. Um, and I think that there will be tech positions available for those who want it. This year alone, we had 3.6 million tech jobs available. And to your earlier point, those opportunities are going to come to those that are prepared. So you're right. If we are looking at 2027 now and people know that they want to take advantage of those higher salaries, the remote work opportunities, then begin retraining, reskilling, partnering with the career coach, partnering with someone, different organizations or different groups on Facebook to figure out where your place is in tech today.
Fantastic, fantastic. I see that world as well in 2027, making this happen. And the only way this will work is if you're prepared right now, as you mentioned. So I know I said that was my last question, but then I have one more. um, I think that this provides an opportunity for global hiring. All of a sudden, because employees are all over the world, because employees are all over the world and talent is pretty much global. I feel like you could find creative talents anywhere. If we're writing the same code regardless of what country I'm in, we're doing exactly the same thing, and then we have this technology which we can all leverage to be able to talk. So right now we probably have 6 or 7 different countries on this within our virtual audience, and this is only possible because of technology. So, how are companies going to take advantage of global hiring for the future? Because I think this is an amazing opportunity to do that. What would you say?
Well, right now in the US, you are seeing that tech stack talent shortage. And so I think that you're going to see a lot of US based companies apply overseas. Number one, I don't think that overseas has like the 401k and like the different retirement options that are included, right, in different packages. And so companies are saving money by looking abroad for talent. And a lot of times tech folks abroad are like, no, I want to make sure that my salary is my salary. So they're also looking for, a little lower of a salary threshold when you look abroad. So I definitely think that a lot of opportunities, scour the US websites for opportunities that are abroad, because I've been seeing an increase in international talent working in US companies for sure.
Yeah, and I could say the same because that's what we're seeing here in the UK as well. A lot more companies are beginning to look outside and say, yes, we would like our UK talent, but the gap and what we need to fill is so wide that we can't fill it just with UK talent. We need to be able to have um, access to a wide talent pool, and diversity and inclusion doesn't just come with color, it also comes in bringing in different ethnicity, different, genders together, and just bringing all of them together, making sure that people can understand that if you have the skill, regardless of your location, your age, your sex, you could still be able to do amazing, especially in technology and in the tech industry. So now let's go to our audience and get 1 or 2 questions. So we have 2 questions. I'll show that on stage and you could take it away, Jill, because I know it's all for you.
Awesome. What is the role of digital marketers in the future workplace in the next 2 decades? Marketers are always going to be needed. Like digital marketing is not going anywhere. And so I see that role definitely growing in the next 2 decades. I would definitely be sure that you understand what are some of the trends that digital marketers are going through as you begin that pivot. So you can do like a quick informational, I call it insider scoop. Take a look at some ideal companies that you would want to work at and reach out to some digital marketers in those companies and ask them what are some of the tasks that they're doing day to day now. And you can start to get an idea of, do I already have those skills and what do I need to do to maybe fill that skill gap so that I am ready to take on that role in the future. Please let me know, Kingsley, if you need additional information on that question. That was a really great question. Um,
Fantastic. I'll bring on the next one.
awesome.
Oh, wow. We have tons of questions now.
How do new talents overcome the challenge of not meeting up to the 2 to 5 years of work experience being asked by employers for entry level positions? So, what I will say is a lot of times, even as a college student, I don't know if you have a college background, but one thing I'll say is that there are more than likely instances in your undergrad experience where you've used those skills. And if you haven't, then I think that you need to take a look at maybe getting a certification, which would be beneficial for you to help you gain those skills. But I don't want you to think that a certification will automatically mean that employers want to hire you, because employers still want to see that you've used those skills in some other instance before they bring you on staff. So I would say that maybe volunteer work would be a great opportunity for you. Take a look at some volunteer options. And also, you want to make sure that you are trying to take on maybe community projects. Like I know some community organizations have a few projects that you can take on at no charge, because I know a lot of us want to get paid for our work, but sometimes we do have to give away some of those free nuggets. I'm not saying give the whole thing away or work hours on a project and don't get paid, but definitely make sure that you are at least getting those 3 to 6 months of experience doing or performing some task, especially if you don't already have the experience now.
I totally agree with you, Jill. And for the guys going through the Tequanem bootcamp, which is a 100% sponsored bootcamp by Tequanem, we are working with some organizations to give them a 3 month work experience once the bootcamp is over. So that is one way to feel that. But as Jill said, it is amazing that the only way you could actually prove that you've done this is actually to do it. And if you have to do it by giving some of your time away, so you could gain that experience on your CV or your resume, and before you know what's happening, that time you will forget about it after a few years, and now you could start earning continuously because you've paid your dues, you've done what you have to do. You are now an expert within that field. You understand the field. Not only have you learned the theoretical, you've now practiced it and learned the practical aspect of it. I'll put in one last question and then we will let Jill tell us about our amazing organization and what she does. So,
Do
yeah,
you think
go for it.
remote work reduces productivity? How can employees convince employers to embrace remote work? And so that's a really great question. I think that remote work does not reduce productivity. As of late, since the pandemic, we've actually seen a 13% increase in productivity. So we are seeing that employers actually do have the ability to work those longer hours, get more work done because they're doing it from the comfort of their home. The thing that I'll say is that you can definitely present the opportunity to work from home from your manager, but there's no magic bullet that we can really say that will open that door for employers to embrace the remote work structure, because it may not be conducive to the type of environment that you're working in. And so if that employer doesn't embrace remote work, I definitely encourage you to, number one, have the conversation with your manager to see if you are eligible for remote work. That's the first step. And then if you're not, I definitely think that you should maybe begin looking for companies that align with what you're looking for and include remote work in one of your non negotiables. That's something that you absolutely need in order to move forward.
All right, fantastic. We have about four more questions, but because of time, and it's up to you, Jill, do you want us to take a few or should we just call it a day?
No, we can definitely take a few more questions. I'm happy that people are definitely in tune with what we're talking about today.
All right, brilliant. This is another one.
This has been such an insightful conversation. I'm curious about the most effective approach to finding entry level roles in tech. Are cold emails advisable? So, the first thing that I'll say is when you are looking for an entry level position in tech, you want to do exactly what we talked about earlier. You want to begin to understand if you have transferable skills. Transferable skills are skills that you already possess today that you can apply to your desired role. So I would not do cold emails, but I would definitely reach out to people that are in a position that I want to be in and understand what are some of the things that they did to get here. And then I would begin to, secondly, identify what skills do you have today that will allow you to transition into tech. It may not be your ideal role initially, but don't forget, you can, like, just because it's your first step does not mean that that's your last step. So be sure to take that time, right, to transition maybe into a non tech role and grow your skill set. Don't be afraid to grow your skill set.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. And then we have Aziz Bankole.
How often does a techie need to upskill in their tech career to stay relevant? So, for example, my background is in project management. I am a certified project manager and I am recertifying every 3 years, right? Because when I first got into tech, that was my first role, project management. And I was like, well, we can get certified and that's what's going to help me stay relevant in the field. Throughout the years, I'm still going to project management events. I still attend sales events, because it helps me stay abreast as to what's happening in the tech world. So I'll say that you need to be going to at least quarterly. You should have gone to 3 upskilling events. So I would say 1 upskilling event a month. And with the virtual world, you can attend at least um, one upskilling thing a month or
Yeah.
opportunity.
This could count as one because you've come here, you've learned about shaping the future of work, and you know what to do next. So you just need to attend, find the ones that are relevant to you, and attend the ones that you can so that you can know what is happening within the industry. You just don't want to have a knowledge that, is now old, considering the speed at which technology moves is very, very fast. So you want to know what's happening every time. So, okay, here is another one. This is a good one.
Yeah, that is a really good one. How can I deal with imposter syndrome once and for all? I think that imposter syndrome is one of those things that we have to deal with within ourselves. And the first thing that I'll say is speak affirmations over yourself, speak words of positivity over yourself, and practice. I think that a lot of times imposter syndrome creeps in because we don't take the time to like practice and convince ourselves that we can. And then also, we don't do a deep dive to give ourselves confidence. If you don't know the skills that you have that make you who you are and that make you unique and that make you special, that's going to lead to imposter syndrome because you don't know where to start. And so I think it's important that number one, you begin to speak positivity over yourself and know that you can do it. Anything that you want to do in this tech world, you can do. And number two, I'll say that you want to begin to have confidence builders. A confidence builders is like Tech 1M. They're offering a certification program for you to take advantage of, right? And so that is a confidence builder. That's one step that'll help you kick that imposter syndrome to the side. So be sure that you're taking advantage of the things that are being offered to you, especially at low to no cost.
Absolutely. And Natalia, okay.
All right. So, is work experience in a non tech role transferable to a tech role? For example, someone who has worked as a portfolio manager for 5 years now, possess skills and education to be a business analyst. Will his experience as a CPM count when applying for a BA role? So, it really depends on the role and what they're looking for their business analyst to do. A lot of times, business analysts interpret data. And so, what I will say is, as a portfolio manager, where are you in your resume giving examples of when you've had to interpret and parse through data? Because that's what most business analysts are doing. And so what I would say is you want to go through the job descriptions of a business analyst and write down the functions of a portfolio manager of what you do today. Find what is like, right? What is the commonality in between the two? And then go through your examples or your work history and find examples of what would make you stand out as a business analyst. Keep in mind, most recruiters, as we are looking at resumes, the number one question that I have when I'm looking at resumes is, can you do the job? If I am to interview this person, if I am to hire this person, are they going to be able to do the job from day one? And not only that, but are they going to at least stay in the job for 12 months? Because companies want you to at least be in the role for 12 to 24 months.
Absolutely correct. So I also agree with that. Your role as a portfolio manager can definitely be transferable, but it has to be within the right domain. And the way to know how to transfer it, as Jill has mentioned, is for you to look at exactly what were your responsibilities as a portfolio manager and what are the similarities to what a business analyst role is. And if you find a job that is looking for a business analyst with a portfolio management experience, then you know that that's one of the roles for you, but not the only role for you, because you could also be a generic business analyst because you understand what a business analyst does. So that's another way to bring that together. Regardless of what you've learned so far, your experiences cannot be lost. They can always be transferable, but you need to know how to transfer them and figure out the way to bring those synergy together and convince people that you are the right person for the role. And the last question of the night is from Bukola.
What advice do you have for seekers of project management roles within a remote working space? There are so many project management roles available within a remote working space. A lot of times, if you don't have project management experience, you can look for project coordinator roles. That is right below a project manager, because a lot of times most of the roles that are asking for project managers are asking for the PMP certification. So I would find roles that are entry level project coordinator roles that will give you the experience to later find that project management role if you don't have that PM experience. Or you can be looking for some sort of rotational program that will give you the experience and let you grow your career. But you have to keep in mind that a lot of those rotational programs do come in at a lower rate.
Absolutely. And in the UK, you could also find like project support roles, which is similar to the project coordinator role as well. And that would help you in getting, you're supporting the project manager, you're supporting the project management office, and that could be the very first starter for you. But try to find entry level, come in, get the experience, and then from there you can build on top of that. So that is all we have time for today. Thank you for everyone that was able to join us live. And thank you so much, Jill. But I think before we leave, we want you to tell us what your superpower is. And we want people to be able to contact you so that not only have you brought in your expertise and your skills to us today, we also want our audience to know what Jill is all about. And hopefully, we could get some more companies reaching out to you based on this podcast.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for having me. So, my name is Jill Fuentes. I am the CEO and founder of the Tech Career Club. It is a career services and staffing agency for professionals looking to transition into tech. So, if you feel that you do not have the skills today to transition into tech, let's talk. I'm happy to sit down and talk about where some of your qualifications are and how the program may be a good benefit for you. And thank you again, Tommie, for having me. I love this discussion. It was much needed.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for answering us. And I hope next time when we say, Jill, can you come speak to Tech 1M audience? We hope you grant us with an absolute yes.
Absolutely. Please, please, please have me back. I would love to definitely join again. This conversation was great. And thank you so much for all of those who gave us questions to answer.
Fantastic. And there you have it, guys. The future of work, like we mentioned, is changing, and we want to be right upfront about the conversation. We don't want to get into the future and start discussing the future. So we are starting the conversation right now, and we'll be bringing in different guests to be able to enlighten us on their view of the future of work. Until next time, I'm Tommie Edwards, and thank you. This was sponsored by Tech 1M. Thank you for all the audience and thank you for listening. Hope to see you guys next time. Bye.